Hello folks, hope you're doing well. So welcome back to another One Piece review. This time we're covering Manga chapter 1159. So ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the year of the God Valley incident. By the end of this chapter, we are at the God Valley incident. Oda is taking that smoking gun, Oda's taking a bullet and he's put it into that smoking gun, and that bullet is God Valley and he's about to open fire. That is hype. So deep in the heart of King Carol's backstory, we're getting the God Valley incident revealed in all its glory. Shakuyaku, as much as she is a goddess who made everybody simp for her in that era, I can't begin to tell you how impressive it is that Oda made Shakky not only a vocal point in this flashback, but a vocal point for the entire God Valley incident, at least one of the biggest catalysts for the God Valley incident. So I appreciate that. Also, and I was keeping an eye on, was the mother of Shanks and Shamrock being introduced in the previous chapter, noted to having red hair. I kept an eye on this. I think it's important to know, and I think this is a valuable lesson to take away from this chapter, if nothing else. Don't jump to the conclusions until you read the entire chapter, because at first glance it seems like things are like I was getting kind of worried here that Oda's not going to give us a name or a face reveal. I'm not going to lie, but once you get to the end of this chapter, and I'm going to break it down fully, it's clear that Oda's not only possibly going to give us a name or a face reveal of the mother of Shanks and Shamrock, but possibly another mother reveal as well, which by itself is going to be incredibly hype. But I'll talk about that. There's so much to dive and take away from this chapter, and unlike the previous chapter, the cover story was not the biggest reveal. Speaking of which, we got the Yamato cover story, and it looks like we're wrapping up the Yamato cover story, because Yamato has completed the tour of Ringo, so now that Yamato, Ulti and Page 1 are heading back to the Flower Capital. I don't know what's going to happen by the end. There's going to be some resolution, I imagine, involving Ulti and Page 1, which would be kind of cool for their character. What happens involving Yamato going forward, I don't know. Either that involves Blackbeard or something else. But that's going to happen off screen, or we're going to get something extra added to this cover story before this ends, which would be hype. So that could be good for Ulti and Page 1's character to apologise to the Scabbards if that's where this is going. But I do like the fact that Ulti is eating an apple but yet got the face mask on. It's kind of like the gag with Doflamingo and his shades. Like, are we ever going to see Doflamingo without his sunglasses? Are we ever going to see Ulti without a mask? I don't know. Time will tell, but that's the cover story. So let's get into this chapter, and immediately things go awry. When the beginning of this chapter, we're like still a year away from the God Valley incident at Hachinosu Pirate Island, with not only the death of Don Marlin, who I'm all but convinced is pretty much Capone Beige's father, for some reason, I don't know why. But also we come to find out that Shakuyaku was kidnapped. Now, so he died in his line of duty to try to protect Shakuyaku. Didn't go well for him. So at this point, you can kind of deduct or guess who it was that not only killed Don Marlin, but also kidnapped Shakky at this stage. But the Rocks Pirates get word of this, and obviously they're not happy about this. But more importantly, I actually like this moment because Gloria So is actually crying out of concern. So that's cool. Now we come to find out, we know not only through what we find out in this flashback, but we also know that Shakky is still alive. So again, they kind of take away the tension there. I do like the fact that Oda kind of added that Gloria Soe is kind of concerned and just like shedding tears for a former comrade, so that's kind of cool. Roger gets word of this and he's pissed. Yeah, all hell's about to break loose, as due to the goddess of this era, Shakuyaku, being kidnapped, that has everybody simping. Then you have a panel of Rayleigh looking in at the newspaper about the article about Shakuyaku, because he knows how his captain feels about Shakuyaku, but deep down you don't need to be a hard ass about it. We know you have feelings for it too. I also think this is Oda showing us a panel of who's going to be the one to free Shakuyaku by the end of God Valley. I'm telling you right now, I do have something to add to that, and I'll get to that later, but Oda decided to skip a year and we go to the year of the God Valley. So literally at God Valley, and we go to Garling, who's returned for the first time since impregnating this woman who we still don't have a name for, but I'm pretty much sure Oda's going to reveal that in due time. But Garling, he's here to see his children. Now he seems sympathetic because he's seeing his children for the first time. And the mother's like kind of like saying, "Hey, why don't you stay here with me?" And Garling's like, "No, because if I was going to stay anywhere, it wouldn't be here. Also, by the way, this island won't be around much longer." So Garling knows what's up. I think he has an idea of what's about to go down, because this comment and this statement kind of falls in line with what Sengoku said the very first time we even heard about God Valley and the Rocks Pirates. He said God Valley never even existed. Also similar to another island that used to exist but doesn't anymore by the name of Lelucia Kingdom, but crazy thought. So I think we can kind of guess where this is going by the end. What's also fucked up is he's saying this right to the mother of his children, and he's literally making no bones about it. "Oh, by the way, I've also secured a worthy bride for myself. She will be mine once I win the Celestial Dragon tournament in God Valley." And that's where he proceeds to stab this poor woman. I guess she regrets her choices by simping for this guy, because apparently, like I said, he impregnated this woman, he left, he came back, but we later come to find out that's not the end for her yet. With this, and with Figure Garling, I think it's fair to say why Oda had Garling replace Saturn as a member of the Gorosei. Oda needed to replace one asshole for another asshole. So there you go. Due to this scene, we kind of have a general idea what's about to be unleashed on God Valley, at least towards the latter stages of this war. But after stabbing the mother of his children, he proceeds to call his posse, "Hey, let's get the proceedings underway now that we're at God Valley." And then all of a sudden you see a group of Marines swarming in on God Valley, including a young dragon. A young monkey dragon, by the way. Also, there's another panel of another mother cradling her daughter, but also you see a son in the background, and a lot of people seem to think, and it could very well be Gekko Moria, because see what we saw. I found that in the previous chapter. I wouldn't be surprised with the Marines coming in to hunt down innocent civilians. Of course, Dragon has a problem with this. He's like, "Why are we doing this?" So it's cool we're getting this through Dragon's perspective as well, that he was a big part of this. Actually, a monumental part of this. We'll go to that by the end. But so speaking of the Marines, we cut to a Marine ship where it's clear as day Ginny snuck in and out of a communications room, getting some massive intel. So that's cool. It's another layer added to what we already know. And apparently this intel that they find out gets leaked to the World Economic Journal, because we go to the Cypherpol Intelligence Bureau facility where they're like confronted by a young Morgans. But Morgans is the president of the World Economic Journal even at this stage. So even though Morgan's news isn't a thing at this point, he's pretty much using his influence to bribe Cypherpol, say, "Hey, if you don't want this intel leaked, and we know what it is, you better pay me, but I'm going to leak this to Hachinosu anyway, so it sucks to be you." So the more things change, the more they stay the same. And of course, he does leak that information because the Rocks Pirates get word of this, and we also come to find out the Rogers Pirates also get word of this as well. It's pretty much stated Shakky's still alive, of course she is, but she's also at God Valley. Now, another element to this is like the Rocks Pirates kind of find out that Shakuyaku is going to be a prize at the Celestial Dragon tournament. They're already aware that this could be a trap, but the thing is, and I love this in the background, and once again, what sets this moment apart is like you got Gloriso in the background, like fangirling over this news because she realizes now that Shakuyaku, her former comrade, is okay. But Stussy in the background is listening to this. She could not give a shit. It's like, oh, it's all about that Shakuyaku again. It's like she's been overshadowed, so she couldn't care less. So even though this news is good to them, they know this is a setup. And Newgate goes on to say the Celestial Dragon's human hunt is like, he thought it was a rumor, but clearly not. But then we also get a panel of Lin telling Kaido, "Hey, looks like they're putting some devil fruits up for grabs, Kaido. I know you want one." That's just another sprinkle that Oda's added to this God Valley cake. So that's pretty cool. It's kind of a misconception here because what we find out at the end of this chapter could be considered a retcon, but I'm going to give my 2 cents on why I don't think it's that much of a big deal. Then you have Struzan like saying, "Hey, what if there's some sort of trap?" Zebek, he doesn't care if it's a trap or not. He's going, and come to find out in this chapter, it's for more reasons than one, not just shakuyaku. So if you're not up for this, if you don't have what it takes, then stay on this damn island. Let's move. So I like that from Zebek. So he's going. Of course he is. Then you cut to the Ora Jackson with Roger asking Scopper, "Hey, where's God Valley?" And Scopper's like, "It's far, but we'll make it. We should be able to make it in time." And then I love this moment from Roger because it's like his motivations for going is shakuyaku, but things are about to go down here. So you're all with me, right? And of course, I love how the crew in the background is like they're like that fanboying over shakuyaku, but you got Rayleigh there who's torn apart because he's like enthusiastic about this, but you can clearly see he's trying to hold it back. So Rox is giving chase, Roger's giving chase, and Garp's about to give chase because he finds out that Roger is making his way for Garp Valley. So he's like, he gets word from Kong, and of course he does, because he's like, "Say no more, I'm on my way." So, but before the Rox pirates can make it to Garp Valley, they're intercepted by King Harold, because of course they are, because of King Harold being an absolute simp and a mark for the world government just because of his dream, which is going to end up horribly backfiring for him. I'm telling you right now, somebody is going to suffer because of this, and I honestly feel like it could be Ida at this point. But either way, King Harold is performing his duties. He intercepts the Rox pirates, and apparently he was given the briefing of, "Hey, they said your entire crew is obsessed with this woman shakuyaku." He goes on to say, "If we fight without any regard for our lives, we would sink you with ease." And he also goes on to say, "There's a ship over there. By the way, that's a government civilian ship." I think that's part of the reason why they get word about a mysterious clan that's absent for 800 years. But all of a sudden they got words. But I love Zebek's comments here because, this is how you know that Ida is more or less one of the main inspirations for this. Zebek is like, "Hey, you may be the king of Elbaf, but you're underestimating us because of that," which is exactly what Ida tells King Harold the moment they first met. So, "You're arrogant and you think you're better than humans because you were born in Elbaf. Don't be arrogant." So, minus a few different words, is more or less the same ideology that Zebek throws in King Harold's face. So I like that. I don't know if any of you guys picked up on that, but that's the first thing that came to my mind. So, and plus, Zebek and Harold were talking at Ida's bar, so there's that too. But we kind of know why these two are doing what they're doing. But before this clash goes down, King Harold and Zebek tells King Harold, "Hey, why don't you just have this opportunity to have this final talk before we throw hands?" And it's like, and at this point, from this point on, when we get the reveal of everything we get, it's like Zebek knows that something is about to go wrong here, and he's like, the way he's talking now, he knows that something's about to go awry. He knows his time is probably running short here, but he's just making the most of it. So let's have this final talk, and clearly this is a callback to Roger and Whitebeard when they had that final discussion, and that too was about, and they revealed that Roger was Gold D Roger. Ironically enough, this is also another conversation that another reveal with somebody carrying the name of D also gets revealed, and it's a full reveal here. So just like what we got with Roger and Whitebeard, we get this with Harold and Zebek. And I like this because it's like kind of like rivals. Like, just you got like King Harold pouring a cup of sake. It's like, okay, I'll hear you out. And really, Zebek doesn't waste any time here because he's like, "I got a hidden name. It's Davy D. Zebek." So Rox, as we could have expected, was more or less just an alias. And Zebek goes on to say, "The world government has been trying to erase this name for a long time. It's tied to a lineage of the legendary pirate Davy D. Jones, because it's looking kind of like there's multiple clans here, not just Davy D." He goes on to say that they still command some influence, even in the underworld, but it's barely scraping by. Of course it is, because we know there's only a few members remaining. 2 years ago, he had a kid and a wife. So, again, the fact that he's elaborating, they actually got married to this woman we could see at the end of this chapter, it speaks volumes. So, they're back in my own town, and they told them, count on the Davy clan. And so at this point, you can kind of see where this is going. God Valley is his hometown, and we kind of like, if you put two and two together, it's kind of obvious what's going on here. And this falls in line perfectly with what St. Garling Figurland said in the previous chapter, at the very beginning, actually, when he was talking to the Gurusei, where he says, "Hey, I found an island unaffiliated with the world government, but I stumbled upon a most interesting discovery that will please the Great One." So obviously, if you put that into perspective, now we kind of have an idea of what he meant. And it should be crystal clear what not only Xebec was away, but also what happened before Xebec, before they met Shakuyaku for the first time. So that falls in line with the timeline perfectly. So King Harold goes on to say that, so your kid and your wife are pretty much in your hometown, God Valley. Why are you revealing this weakness to me? But then Xebec was already, like I said, the way he's talking right now is kind of like he knows time is running short. So he's just saying this now to get it out because he respects King Harold. Because King Harold's like, are you saying the government just threw this in there because it's a trap to lure you in? Xebec's like, no, because if they wouldn't want me crashing the party. Plus, they already miscalculated by kidnapping Shakuyaku, thinking, because obviously Shakuyaku was on Hachinosu at the time, he's going to use this opportunity for this miscalculation to get his kid and wife to safety. Standout father, I have to say. But he goes on to say, it doesn't look like luck's on my side anymore, Harold, so lend me a hand. You can kind of see some like emotion behind King Harold, but he's just like, no, I'm just going to sink you here and now. But Xebec is like, are you sure about this? Let's bring it on. Well, unfortunately, it's King Harold's ship that ends up getting blasted, as what we see here. The Rock's pirates make it to God Valley, but we know also through the current line of events, we know that King Harold doesn't die here, just because what we know about involving him and Loki. And I also like this moment because I think this is also the first and only time that King Harold and Kaido have technically quote-unquote had an interaction here, because you clearly see a panel of Xebec, and behind them is Lilin, Newgate, and Kaido. I thought that was epic as all hell. So we got Davy D. Xebec's full name revealed. So that's what that was here for. Then we cut to the incident of the God Valley, where we go to the Celestial Dragon tournament. But before we go to that, we have a scene involving Monkey D. Dragon, where we go to a household where not only Shanks' mother is also still technically hanging on by a thread. Hey, you have to get my children off this island. Don't let him take them. I'll get to that in a minute because I have a question about that. But that's clear as day, the mother of Shanks, because we see the trickles of blood after being stabbed. Then you see another mother comforting little Teach, in a separate panel, saying, Teach, it'll be alright, you have to survive. We go from there, and Monkey D. Dragon has a huge role here that's going to shape the foundation of the future of One Piece going forward. So that's insane. But then we go to the Celestial Dragon tournament, I guess, ceremony, before the proceedings get underway. The first thing to note, other than the Simping Celestial Dragons over, because they see Shakuyaku, you see the chest in the background, right? And this is the thing that people are hanging on as far as like being a retcon. We see Shakuyaku and the Devil Fruits are the major prize for this tournament. We see the Celestial Dragons simping. We got each of the clans of the Celestial Dragons telling the representatives, or the Holy Knights. You got one Celestial Dragon telling Saint Summers, hey, you better win this for the Shepherd family. And then Summers is like, no, I'm going to make her my personal property, which is kind of fucked up. But then Garling is like, no, she'll be my wife. Quit dreaming. The thing that really puts this scene over the top, as far as like the Celestial Dragons and their intentions here, is what Gunko is told and what we hear here. Because the Celestial Dragon tells Gunko, hey, with you here, we might just take this trophy home. That to me speaks volumes, because you're saying that with Garling here and also Saint Summers. Now, I don't know if Saint Killingham is also going to be a part of this. We don't see him here. If it's going to like reveal them here, I wouldn't be surprised if he does. But to me, that just speaks volumes. Like with Gunko here, they might be able to take the trophy. Are they implying, even with Garling here, that Gunko quote unquote maybe the strongest out of the bunch. I'm not surprised by any means, because we saw Gunko with Emu when we first saw Zebek in the flower room. Okay, so nothing about Gunko that we hear from now on is going to be a shock, because I said this from the get-go. There's going to be a different level of importance as far as Gunko is concerned when you compare it to the other Holy Knights. Just look at what's going on currently in Elbaf. So I rest my case. But does this have something to do with the transformation of Gunko that we know Gunko could do, or Gunko's abilities? But this Noble also announces, in addition to these prizes, hey, we also got some rare rabbits to hunt, because we got a kid from the Buccaneer tribe, and we also got, for the first time in 800 years, we've uncovered members of the Davy clan, and obviously we know who they're referring to. I have to say though, Shakuyaku, even though in this predicament, this goddess Shakuyaku has no fear, and she also has nerves of stone here, because no fear whatsoever, despite the situation. But the God Valley is about to kick off here with the Devil Fruits as well as Shakuyaku's freedom are all on the line, and that's how Oda decides to end the chapter. A lot to go over. So let's get to the scene involving Dragon, because that, like I said, this is going to change the One Piece world going forward from this era on. But the fact that Dragon, a young Monkey D. Dragon, who, by the way, I also like that we're getting more aspects from him and his perspective in this, and his involvement, especially even as a young Marine. We know this incident is going to change the entire outlook and switch the gears going forward, and become one of the biggest enemies to the world government following this. It's cool to see where this starts, and Oda's giving this dash of sprinkles involving Monkey D. Dragon. Now, with Dragon approaching the household with what looks to be the unnamed mother, and like I said at the top of the review, don't jump the gun here, because what it looks like to me is like we may end up getting a name and face reveal, because technically this mother is still holding on by a thread. It could be a case of Oda not just the mother of Shamrock and Shanks with a full name and face reveal, which now would be given the circumstances, now would be a pretty good opportunity for Oda to do that. So I think Oda's not only going to do that, but he's also going to throw Teacher's mother and Zebek's wife into the mix. And the fact that Zebek that's the biggest motivation for Zebek heading to God Valley right now speaks volumes. Number one, that separates Zebek as far as like having morals and being a standout guy. Like, I didn't know what to make of him, because he's the father of Blackbeard, for crying out loud, and we know how Teach acts. He betrays everybody who takes him in. Like, just look at Whitebeard. So yeah, I didn't know what to expect, but I have to say, like, Zebek is also another standout character. What a great character, honestly, after this chapter, because he's like, he knows it's a setup, but he's there to like get his wife and child, as he should, out of harm's way. And Dragon is going to be the one to place Shanks, and at the very least Shanks, in the chest. Now, the fact that the mother said don't let him take them, I'm pretty sure she means figure like Garling. So is this going to be a case of where we get an interaction involving Dragon and Garling, and one of those children is going to be rescued, and that's going to be Shanks, while the other gets taken in to the Holy Land? And we know how he ends up. I mean, just look at what we've got in Elbaf. He's no different than his father. And not only is Dragon going to save Shanks by the looks of it, it could very well be saving Teach, which I find very ironic, considering he could very well be the future opponent. Maybe, again, Emu pointed out something's going on the Holy Land where it's a sea of flames right now. What is going on? Who is attacking? Is it Marshal D. Teach, or is it the revolutionaries led by Dragon? Or is it a combination of both? I do find it interesting, though. We may very well get the reveal of two important mothers of two future Yonko, and Oda revealing that on top of everything else. That is groundbreaking. I think if you're going to do that, okay. It's all about the follow-up here, but if that's why Oda's going with this, great, because that could be epic in his own right. And it's not like Oda's going to reveal that anywhere else. So if you're going to do that, now's the time. So you just look at the scene at the end of this chapter of what could very well be a Shanks mother reveal on top of a Teach mother reveal / Zebek's wife reveal. that could be monstrous in its own right, but with this reveal and with what the level of importance that Shakuyaku is getting right now, it makes you wonder what else is Oda going to reveal, especially when it comes to the Straw Hats. Like, who hasn't been wondering who the father of Nico Robin is? Like, with like reveals like with like scenes like this, we may very well get that revealed in due time. So that's another reason why I'm excited about this. It's Saint Garling, the fact that I think it's fair to say he had a hand in not only kidnapping Shakuyaku but killing Don Marlon. So with that in mind, and given the context of everything we know in the story of One Piece, again, we know Shakuyaku makes it out alive, but through that logic alone, I kind of want to see a interaction, a battle between Garling and Rayleigh. I think that'd be kind of epic, honestly. One thing to have Garling go up against Roger, that's epic, but I think it add more layers and more volumes to Rayleigh, because that's an emotional aspect as well. Garling is the one that wants Shakuyaku as his wife. That's personal as far as I'm concerned. So it'd be kind of nice to get more layers to Rayleigh's character in addition to see what we have from Roger. I don't know, that's just a hot take. I think that's where it's going to go. If nothing else, Rayleigh's definitely going to be the one to free Shakuyaku. I think that's fair to say. Just because we know Roger and Garp are eventually going to team up against Zebek, but now that everything's laid out and we have like more details to go with everything else that we know about God Valley, it's fair to say that Emu is more than likely going to have a hand. Now, I don't know if Emu's going to step foot on God Valley. That would be crazy, but I felt like, just based off what Garling said at the beginning of this chapter, telling the mother of his children, like, hey, you better I'm not going to live here because this God Valley doesn't have much longer to exist anyway. So he knew what was up. The moment we first heard from Son Goku about the God Valley incident and the Rocks Pirates, he mentioned that God Valley no longer exists. Like I said earlier, what else would you contribute that to other than Emu's involvement? Consider what we know now. The biggest takeaway for me personally, I said this a couple of reviews ago, the thing I like most about this flashback, the insane amount of characters that Oda is highlighting who you wouldn't necessarily expect to have a major role in this era. Not only a major character, but also is a freaking catalyst for this incident in the first place. Like, yeah, Ginny and Ivankov are responsible for leaking this intel, but if Shakuyaku was kidnapped in the first place, then this is not happening. That to me is insane, just how influential and how important Shakuyaku was at this point, and the fact that Celestial Dragons were eyeing Shakky up to take her as a wife or a slave, that is not a coincidence, considering what we know about Boa Hancock. Okay, I don't want to hear this is just a coincidence. Okay, the thing that stands out to me, and if Shakuyaku was this influential, it kind of gets you to wonder how important Boa Hancock will be going forward, Elbaf or not. So I'm excited to see that play itself out as well. Also, I don't know if Oda's hinted at Shakuyaku possibly having a devil fruit, because we know Shaki's pretty much shackled at this point. But if those are Kuroseki handcuffs, this will be a good opportunity to explore upon that as well. Now, the final point I want to make here, and this is the thing that people got up in arms about. Honestly, I don't see this as a big deal. I'm going to explain why. But we got the chests at the end of this chapter. You clearly see 9 chests. The misconception here is because, and a lot of people, the reason why people think this is a retcon is because there were 6 chests during the Kuma backstory. There is a scene involving Ivankov and Kuma where they're holding 6 chests. And if you go back the previous episode before that, 1129, you see a scene involving this ceremony, but obviously in this chapter it's expanded upon more, considering what we get. But there is a scene where we get the chest and you only see 4. We know the fact process of elimination, the pawpaw fruit and Kaido's devil fruit were at stake. We knew this. So the reason why people are gung-ho about this and they're up in arms, to me, it's more of an ego thing than anything else, because a lot of people want to speculate. And I said this in the last review. That's the reason why people were upset that Figurine Garling didn't have red hair in the anime. Meanwhile, Oda's like, oh, here we go. Here's the mother. Now, again, it depends on the follow-up if we actually get a name or face reveal. But is it a retcon? Sure. But my question to you is, who's shocked by this, and what else were you expecting Oda to do here? Like, Oda's not going to circle back to this. Like, this is it. We're not going to get any redo. There's going to be no redos. What we see is what we get with the God Valley incident, one way or another. Oda's not going to add something new after this. For the same reason, he's not going to reintroduce Big Mom and Kaido. And listen, I get it. A lot of people don't like admitting they're all wrong, okay? And I'm not going to use Oda hide behind the fact that, this was taught by Kuma's memories and Kuma's perspective. No, I'm not going to allow Oda to hide behind that reason when we all know Oda's taking liberties with this flashback anyway. I just explained, we saw Loki and Hardy, never mind King Harold, on Elbaf at the time. I didn't see them present on God Valley, did you? So, again, I'm not going to use that as an excuse. What else was you expecting from Oda? Like I said, he's not going to go back and retell this. This is it. So, whatever happens, we're going to get the context here. It's hype as hell, because like I said, this highlights other characters that you wouldn't necessarily expect to have a role or to be important during this era, but my god. But Oda blowing my expectations away with this. Shakuyaku is a major catalyst for the God Valley. I did not have that in my bingo book, I tell you that right now. But the biggest takeaway for me here is like the fact that the crucial role that Dragon now has as far as like getting not only the son of Zebek, but also the son of Shanks and Shamrock's unnamed mother, that I'm pretty sure very well could have a name as of next chapter. Oda's setting us up for 2 mother reveals, which is epic in its own right, and Dragon, who would have thought, is the major catalyst for like saving 2 future Yonko. Who would have had that in their bingo book as well? But the father of Luffy saving Teacher's life when he's going to be the mortal enemy of Luffy, or at least one of the mortal enemies for Luffy, going into the final arc. So, talk about ironic. But the main thing to me is like the level of importance of Shakuyaku here, and I didn't expect that in my bingo book. Like, it's one thing to have this goddess have so many legends sent for her. It's another thing to have Shakuyaku this much of an influential act as far as like God Valley incident is concerned. Like, that's pretty much the catalyst for why the Roger Pirates came into play. So I love that, and I love how Oda's sprinkling these hints here and there, and these details here and there, and now it lines up perfectly with what we're about to experience. Like I said at the beginning, it's here, it's now. The God Valley incident is next. It's just what the hell is Oda about to unleash? That's going to do it for you guys. If you enjoyed this video, you guys know what to do. Hit that thumbs up. I appreciate that. Leave your comments down below. Subscribe to the channel for more One Piece. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.